Well, for more, I'm joined by Maxime Larive. Maxime is the Research Associate at the EU Center of Excellence at the University of Miami. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So let's start with this state visit. We know that one of the key issues that President Macron came to Washington to discuss was trade. So how do you see the economic relationship between the US and France?
Well, the economic relationship between the two countries and even the US and the European Union are really strong and deep, and they've been really closely intertwined since the end of World War II. I mean, just in the case of US and French relations and companies created on those two countries, we have roughly 1 million jobs linked to this. This is one of the most integrated, two economies in terms of finance services and movement of labor between two continents. And this represents almost 1/3 of global growth. So these are really important economic relations.
Now, back home, we know that President Macron is pushing ahead with his labor reforms to modernize France's labor market. But then you also have public workers, retirees, and students who've also been protesting and pushing back against the reforms. Are you surprised by Macron's popularity taking a dive despite this stronger economic data that we're seeing?
Yeah, not really. I mean, this has been a common trend in France where we've seen over time a series of reforms by different governments on the right, on the left. And this always resulted in some sort of strikes and protestation. When it comes to growth, and I think that is the story that we see in the United States and throughout Europe, GDP growth does not equate to higher wages or lowering inequalities. That's something that takes much longer. So better numbers may look better on IMF, OECD reports, but does that change really a lot for the middle class? And that's something that Emmanuel Macron is trying to build over his mandate.
And let's talk about that, because obviously it's not helping Macron's popularity now. But how does all this play into his long-term economic plan for France?
Well, his long plan is dual, right? So there is, as you mentioned, the reform of the economy, and what he wants to do, or what he tried to develop, is to kind of open up that economy by maintaining, startups and companies in France, by lowering corporate taxes and other sorts of taxes. And he wants as well to transform the French economy and be, ready to move into the digital and as well green economy. And we've seen this in the past months or so, where he has invested public funding to attract companies like Samsung and others in AI and all these different aspects. So that's one aspect of it. The second side of his reform is as well the reform of the European Union. And in that case, he wants as well to push for a rethinking of the Eurozone and making it a little bit more integrated in order to facilitate movement and transformation of that massive economy.
And let's talk about the broader EU. We know that France and Germany account for around 50% of Eurozone output, and their solidarity is really key to pushing forward with reforms in the region. So talk about how Macron envisions the future of the EU and the potential challenges that he may encounter.
Yeah, so, Macron is very unique in the Fifth Republic of France, in the sense that he really ran a campaign that was pro-Europe. Historically, most French presidents and candidates, at the exception of extreme right or extreme left, have always been pro-Europe or pro-European Union. But Macron made really a statement to say that France can only grow and can be stronger only with the European Union. And in that matter, I mean, it was very symbolic. The day of his election, he played the Ode to Joy, which is the European anthems, which sent a strong signal. So what he envisioned is simply, in the case of the Eurozone, making it more integrated, created some sort of EU finance minister, and deepening the Eurozone. Now, the problem is in some sort Germany that doesn't see that this integration or greater centralization may play in the interest of Germany. So that will be the debate. But this is, part of the discussion that France and Germany are having. President Macron met with Chancellor Merkel before coming to the US, and they have a meeting in June to discuss those kind of roadmaps in the future and the reform of the EU.